I would add that no one has been hurt more in recent years by low standards and a lack of accountability for student learning, growth, and gain than our most disadvantaged students. Without accountability, there's no expectation that all children can and will learn. Without accountability, there's no urgency. Without accountability, without meaningful assessments of student learning, parents don't have an objective way to know whether their children are getting the education they desperately need and deserve. Without accountability, there's no imperative to face hard truths about our education system. And the hard truth is that our low-income students are less prepared than middle-income students, and our middle-income students are less prepared than students in many high-performing Asian and European countries. Accountability is never just about low-income students, it's about all students, all students. Without accountability, without a straightforward system of knowing which students are learning, we cannot fulfill the promise of Brown. I know new evaluation systems are imperfect and can be unsettling for teachers. But tell me another way to figure out which teachers are succeeding and which are struggling, and how we can help more teachers to excel in their complicated craft. We need to learn from states and districts where meaningful evaluation and high expectations are coupled with real support and teacher leadership. Places like right here in Tennessee, back home in DC, and places like Hillsborough County, Florida, and Denver, Colorado. Good things are happening for both teachers and students in those places. So as you cover state and local efforts to implement higher standards, and efforts by some on both the political right and left to walk away from high expectations and accountability for effectiveness and results, I hope you'll ask the hard questions. Tell us how low standards and a lack of accountability can benefit poor children. Show us where children at risk will be better off if we just stop setting high standards, stop evaluating, and stop pushing for better assessments of learning. We all know what that looks like. Tragically, in too many places, it's the education system we had for decades. Proficiency rates in some schools in the single digits. High schools where every single year half the students leave school. Between my junior and senior years in college, I took a year off to work at my mom's after-school tutoring program on the south side of Chicago. One of the students I tutored was a basketball player at the local high school who wanted me to help prepare him to take the ACT and the SAT. He was a great kid who had done all the right things, including staying away from the gangs and the violence so prevalent in his community. He was an honor roll student with a B average, and tragically, I soon discovered that he was basically functionally illiterate, reading at basically the second and third grade level, and unable to put together a written paragraph. He had been led to believe, and he honestly thought, that he was on track for college success. The system, his schools, had failed him, not the other way around. But there was no transparency, no accountability for the system. Where was the outrage there? The distance between perception and reality for him and for untold thousands and thousands of our nation's students is absolutely heartbreaking. Ask parents, and they'll tell you that they are big believers in accountability and evaluation. So to my friends and my colleagues, my allies in public education, school board members, administrators, unions, and teachers, I want to say this as clearly as I can. Avoiding accountability will undermine public confidence in public schools. It will propel more parents to look elsewhere for educational options, and it will weaken the very system that we all want to strengthen. Since the time of Brown, what might be called the paradox of progress has played out in our nation's schools. Our students have made enormous progress, and yet the rising significance of education in the global economy has made America's large achievement gaps so much more consequential. The progress since Brown has been nothing short of phenomenal. And it's not obviously limited to the fact that America has its first black president. In 1950, fewer than 25% of young black adults completed high school. In 2012, almost 70% of black students graduated from high school on time. During the same time span, the percentage of young black adults who earned a bachelor's degree or higher increased sevenfold, from about 3% to 21%. But the catch is that for all the progress, it's not nearly enough to fulfill the promise of Brown. The fourth and final reason that education is the civil rights issue of our generation is that sadly, discrimination continues to exist in too many places. Our department's Office for Civil Rights receives roughly 10,000 complaints every single year, 10,000. OCR's job is to enforce the law, and that means telling a school district in Texas that they cannot punish a young woman for lewd conduct because another student raped her in the school band room. It means telling a district in Colorado that they cannot simply ignore a hostile environment for Latino students and staff. It means telling schools in a New York county that they cannot systemically reduce the grades of students with disabilities by a multiple of 0.69. And it means telling a principal in rural Alabama that he cannot justify disparities in offering AP courses in predominantly minority high schools because he somehow believes that black students can't succeed in advanced courses. Nor is this problem limited to K-12 education. The federal government provides more than $150 billion each year to college students and institutions of higher education. And yet parts of the higher education establishment have reacted with dismay at the very idea that the federal government, after significant public input, would seek to create a rating system that would give students and families a better sense of the value of their college education and taxpayers' $150 billion annual investment. So I want to encourage all of you to use your knowledge and your passion and expertise to combat complacency, to ask the hard questions about accountability, and to awaken more people to the real-world toll of educational inequity. Your colleague Amanda Ripley came up with an innovative way to study education in America. She spent time both with U.S. students who did a year abroad and with students from other countries who went to school here in the U.S. She concluded in a recent book that students in high-performing countries are doing better than in the U.S. because they are more serious about school. And that seriousness, that sense of educational purpose, has its roots in both policy and culture. The high-performing countries she looked at set high standards for what students should learn and measured mastery with tests that mattered, just as states in the U.S. are starting to do. At a panel I moderated with Amanda, students from South Korea, Brazil, Germany, and Australia, they all said that school here was easier than their schools back home, even if they were attending top high schools here. Korea is one nation that takes education seriously. Korean teachers get extra pay and career rewards for working with the neediest kids. Their children who need more get more. Our children who need more too often get less. Here in the United States, I don't know of a single school district out of 15,000 that identifies the most successful, hardest working teachers and principals and systematically provides incentives and support so that they can help the kids and the schools and the communities who need the most help. I don't know of a single district that systemically identifies every student who needs longer school days, more after-school enrichment, and longer school years to be successful, and provides those opportunities to them. We have well-documented achievement gaps and opportunity gaps, but more importantly, we have a courage gap, and we have an action gap. What is outrageous is that we don't have a knowledge gap. We know the importance of extra time. We know the importance of getting great teachers and principals before the children who need them the most. Until adults show the courage to close that action gap, we won't be putting children's needs first. We will simply continue to admire the problem. Tennessee's example and the history of Brown actually give me great optimism. To paraphrase Dr. King, that the moral arc of our schools is long, but it bends towards justice. And justice means true equity and opportunity for all. Your reporting, your truth-telling can help make our nation and our school leaders fulfill the promise that in America, education is and must be the great equalizer. Your investigative skills and your expertise can make Brown not a hallmark of the past, but a harbinger of the future. Thank you so much. I look forward to your questions.